What is up, everyone? LJ over here from PlayerEssence, and welcome to the PE Nintendo Switch and gaming news video. Today we've got some great information for you in addition to a little discussion at the end, so let's go ahead and get right into it. Valkyria Revolution free DLC schedule has been announced. Sega has announced the lineup of free downloadable content coming to Valkyria Revolution following the game's launch. Now, the game will be out on June 27th. I've been playing the game. I got a review code from Sega, and I have to say it's a very different game than what you would expect from the Valkyria Chronicles games if you played them on the PS Vita or the PSP, or I don't know if there's a PS Vita version, but I know the PSP and the PS3 PC. It's very different from that, so don't go in expecting that type of RTS strategy RPG. It's a very different flow. Kind of reminds me of, well, a little bit like Final Fantasy 15 with some obviously key differences in there. It's just a very free-flowing game. Obviously, there's a demo that people can play, but there is a free DLC schedule, and I will be talking about the game in addition to showing off the game once the embargo lifts on that. So I'm having some good fun with it, and I think that it's a pretty solid game overall, but I'll talk about that more once we get closer to that date. But yes, there is a free DLC schedule from different items to scenario packs, the Circle of Five, and different stuff that you'll be able to download for it. This is more of a budget title game, not necessarily saying that in a bad way, but it's not a $59.99 price game. It is $39.99 from what I can understand, at least in most places as far as the US goes. So it's not a full price game. It is a little bit underneath that. And the art style and everything about this game is a little bit different. So if you're interested in an action RPG for the summer, it's coming out very soon. Check out some gameplay videos, and of course you can wait till I stream it, because I will be streaming it and showing it off closer to that date. So let me know what you guys think about Valkyria Revolution, which they dropped the Azure in the title from the Japanese version. Anyway, they dropped I like the Azure part, but they dropped it. But anyway, Valkyria Revolution will be getting some free DLC following the launch, so let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section below. Alright, and moving on to the next article here. Final Fantasy XIV's producer once again says that the Nintendo Switch version is a possibility of happening. So Final Fantasy XIV could possibly be coming to the Nintendo Switch. Once again, the producer Naoki Yoshida has talked about this. He's done it multiple times, even as early as August 2015, back when the system was known as the NX. So Kotaku caught up with them once again in order to get some clickbait material out there, because, you know, Nintendo Switch, it's always popular, so you want to talk to the same guy who's talked about it before. So they caught up with them again, and once again he goes into that. So here's what he had to say on the matter, especially highlighting crossplay. I've said on several occasions, but it hasn't changed, we would love for as many players to be on Final Fantasy XIV as possible. Conversations have been had with Phil Spencer from Microsoft and the upper management teams of Nintendo, but I have proposed a condition every time I speak with any platform manufacturer, is that the game has to have compatibility of cross-platform play. Of course, with an MMORPG, once it launches and starts going into live services and operations, there will be a community, no matter how small it dwindles down to. We have to be responsible for taking care of those communities. It would be an obstacle if the first party or manufacturer changed how patches are being implemented or online regulations. Some of our external parties' regulations don't have massively multiplayer online RPGs in mind in terms of how they regulated their online activities. Those can become a hurdle when we consider operating Final Fantasy XIV for an extended period of time. And so when I talk to those first party companies, do you have the capability to prepare for that? Do you have the resolve that you're going to make sure to take responsibility and take care of those? Do you have that willingness? If we are able to come to some sort of agreement, a handshake, so to speak, or if it does end up being that unfortunately we can't do a handshake with Final Fantasy XIV, either way, we'll make sure to communicate with our players. But we have been tenacious. We've been trying to keep at it and to be persistent about our conversations. So we'll see what happens here. Obviously, Sony isn't huge on crossplay with other platforms as far as consoles go. We've seen that with Minecraft. We've seen that with Rocket League. Sony has been blocking crossplay, whereas Nintendo has been very open about crossplay. I think even dating back to the Wii U, where a couple games, I think like chess and another game, I forgot, was like a strategy RPG, like another title, had crossplay with PC and other platforms, but I know for sure PC. So I don't think this would be a problem with Nintendo when it comes to crossplay. Now, Sony necessarily doesn't have to have crossplay on their system with Microsoft and with Nintendo platforms. What they could do, because some people were saying, oh, well, if Sony's not into crossplay, then this game can't come to the system. No, that's not the case at all. What they can do is that they can have crossplay, and it can be with PC, it can be with Microsoft, and it can be with Nintendo. It doesn't have to include Sony in order for this, even though this game came to Sony platforms, which it came to the PS3, and it came to the PS4, and it came to the PC. It doesn't have to have crossplay with Sony's platforms. I guess the PS3 is not supported as much anymore with the new expansions. But with the PS4, it doesn't have to be with that. It can just be PC, and Microsoft and Nintendo could have plenty of players to play with when it comes to that. So I'm thinking that this deal will probably get done at some point. Nintendo and Square Enix have a pretty good relationship, but there's a lot of technical details to go over, especially with the online play with Nintendo. Nintendo's still piecing together their online. It's obviously not going to launch as far as the full online service till 2018. So I would say that this game probably won't come to Nintendo Switch anything earlier than like 2018. I'd probably say like sometime late 2018 or mid 2018 this could probably come to the Nintendo Switch. I think it will, and I also think it'll come to the Xbox One at some point. It's just a matter of getting all the specifics dealt with, and I think Microsoft and Nintendo and Square Enix, they would all want it to launch at the same time. So you'd want the Xbox One and you'd want the Nintendo Switch version to all launch at the same time, so you don't have to worry about dual launches as far as getting the communities together. You can just all launch it and everything can be done on that one day, and if there's any issues, get all that fixed at one time instead of going through separate times. It just makes it easier for Square Enix, and makes it easier for this producer, because I bet he's really busting his butt to make sure all the updates and everything is going through. So that's my personal take on it. I do think it'll come, but it won't be till 2018 at some point. Alright, and moving on to the last article here, I wanted to have a little bit of a discussion, especially when it comes to a lot of the infighting that's been going on when it comes to the Nintendo community, talking about third-party support, talking about stuff you guys have seen my debate on here, and some people said, oh, it was great, some people said that you cut him off too much, and I did apologize for cutting off RetroDeath too much and all that, but I do feel that my information, as far as like the raw material, the source of it, was very correct as far as my facts go. And anytime that I talk about something online, or when I talk about Nintendo, really it comes out of me wanting to get the right information out. It doesn't really come out of me just being a fan of it. I want to get the right information out. If something is not right, or if something is wrong with something, I can definitely say something about it. But if I see, as far as from a business angle, or as far as from a factual angle, where like, okay, I can see where a company is making a decision, I'll say that, even if it's not necessarily the best thing for us. I'll be like, well, this is what's going on, this is the reality of the situation. And that's what I've said multiple times when it comes to Nintendo Switch. The reality of the situation, which is unfortunate for us fans, is that the Wii U, as far as the failure of the system, has consequences. I've heard other people say, oh, well, it's a clean break from the Wii U. No, not in the mind of the business eye. When it comes to planning and all that, a lot of these third-party developers have the Wii U fresh on their mind and what happened with their games on that system. So while Nintendo might let us know from a PR standpoint it's a clean break, third-party developers are definitely not thinking that. But one thing did get me thinking about what happened with the Wii U, what happened with the Nintendo Wii, and what's happening with the Nintendo Switch. One of the things in business that you continuously go back and look when you're talking about making a successful thing is, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And this mantra has worked for Sony for some time. I mean, for a very long time. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And Sony has pretty much stuck with that from the PS3 and on, just really not fixing anything if it's not broke. And Nintendo kind of went back to that. And when it comes to like the Wii, right, there are more parallels between the Wii and the Nintendo Switch than any other system Nintendo's done consecutively, maybe outside of like the Nintendo to Super Nintendo. Obviously, the Wii to the Wii U was very different when it comes to control inputs, very different when it comes to a lot of things. When you look at the Wii was a very unique system. The hardware was unique with the controllers, as far as what you did, the type of games that came to the system were unique, whereas the Wii U kind of seemed to be like an Xbox 360 or a PS3 is slightly better, and then Nintendo just trying to force feed you those type of games on there very early on with all of the third-party deals that they did. And I think a lot of Nintendo fans didn't necessarily see that as a uniquely Nintendo system starting out, so maybe that's the reason why the sales kind of stagnated and third-party games didn't sell on there, because no matter how much you try to hide the fact or try to move on from it, third-party games flopped on the Wii U, and that's just a fact. Yes, some of them were not necessarily the best ports out there, but a lot of them were very good ports and deserved to sell, and they didn't. So looking at what Nintendo's done with the Nintendo Switch, you can clearly see the parallels between the Wii and the Nintendo Switch as far as what they're trying to do, creating a very unique system that can be played in unique ways, that can be taken anywhere. It's kind of just funny how that goes. And if you look at what Nintendo's doing as far as trying to drive the install base with their first party content, you saw the same parallels with the Wii. A lot of third-party developers didn't trust Nintendo coming off the GameCube, coming off of their sales not being very good. So you saw very few third-party support at the launch of the Nintendo Wii. Nintendo drove the system with their own content. What did they have? I think they had XIV. They also had Wii Sports, which was huge for them, and they also had The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. Those three games, as far as first party, really drove Nintendo's content as far as sales go. Sold out everywhere. People had trouble finding one, whether it was the core gamers looking to play Zelda or it was the casual gamers looking to play Wii Sports. Now, if you go to the Nintendo Switch, what did Nintendo do? They drove the concept home with pretty much three solid exclusives that they worked on. They had The Legend of Zelda. Once again, you're bringing that parallel in. Then you had 1-2 Switch, which was supposed to be some type of casual party game. Now, 1-2 Switch obviously hasn't had the same type of success that Wii Sports had, but it was still a casual game to try to put people in. So you can see that parallel, in addition to something like Bomberman, which is a classic franchise, just like XIV was the classic Excite franchise. So you can see what Nintendo was trying to do there. And in terms of in the modern era, so from the 6th generation and on, the most exciting and the most financially successful period for Nintendo when it came to third-party developers was the Wii era. No matter what anyone can say, no third-party games in terms of a Nintendo system, so we're talking about in the modern era, GameCube and on, no system enjoyed more third-party success than the Nintendo Wii. And why did the Nintendo Wii enjoy so much success? Because it had this massive install base that a lot of developers came onto after they saw how great the system sales were. So I think in the mind of a lot of different developers, when it comes to Activision or when it comes to any of these companies, they saw that they were able to release their titles on the Nintendo Wii, and maybe it wouldn't do as well as the Xbox or the PlayStation, but they'll still sell over 1 million copies of Call of Duty. They'll still sell over 1 million copies of Sonic. They'll still sell over 1 million copies of a lot of their different games that came out. There were so many third-party games on the Nintendo Wii, I think over 80 or something like that, that sold 500,000 copies or more, and I know that there was at least 70 or so that sold over 1 million as far as third-party titles go, whereas the Wii U, I think, had about 2 to 3 games that sold over 1 million units in terms of a third-party standpoint. So if you look at the parallel, there's a lot of third-party developers out there that want to follow that same strategy when it comes to planning a system, when it comes to the support. They want to see that the system is going to do well because they know Nintendo's first-party content is going to demand most of people's dollars. Whether you have a great game or not, we've seen time after time on Nintendo platforms that a great third-party game might launch on there and it just gets swallowed or devoured by first-party content on the Nintendo system. When Nintendo has actually said, okay, well, we'll kind of scale back our first-party content, we've seen that that didn't work with the Wii U. Nintendo scaled things back. Third-party developers had a clear launch window. All there was Nintendo Land, which came with the system, and also New Super Mario Bros., a 2D platformer. So there's all sorts of action and shooters and everything, and that still didn't work. So when you're in the planning phase, you definitely want to make sure that you don't follow what didn't work. So I'm thinking that a lot of developers saw what happened with the Wii U. They're seeing what happened with the Wii as far as Nintendo driving their content, and that was a plan from the very beginning in terms of that. So if it's not broke, don't really fix it. I mean, you even have the parallels of the Wii remotes, right? That was something that was really big, was the Wii remotes, was motion controls, and Nintendo has brought that back. But not only have they brought that back in a casual angle, they've also brought that back in a core angle as far as with games like ARMS, and it works better than anything on the Wii for the most part, outside of, like, what, maybe Red Steel, but even then, it's more responsive. So Nintendo has created a successful motion control game a lot earlier in terms of for core players than Wii Sports or than anything else that was on the Wii. So in my opinion, Nintendo kind of just took with the strategy what they did with the Wii, and they're applying that to the Nintendo Switch, and nothing's to say that that strategy won't work. Whereas with the Wii U, the strategy of, okay, well, let's appeal to these PS4 or these Xbox One or these PS3 fans, Microsoft and Sony, that didn't necessarily work because Nintendo fans didn't buy the system. They just continued playing their third-party games on other systems. Hopefully going forward in the future, people can kind of see what's going on here, and I think that third-party developers will definitely be making games, which they are. We're getting FIFA, we're getting NBA, we're getting Skyrim, we're getting Rocket League. There's definitely titles. Heck, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 just got the box art. We just talked about that. So there's definitely going to be more titles incoming, but I definitely think that a lot of the third-party developers want to see that install base. They want to see that same parallel that the Wii had. Like, okay, we know first-party games are going to kill it. We know most people are going to buy first-party games and their money's going to be taken up on that, but at least we'll have enough users there to where we can sell a cool million, we can sell a couple million and all that. Because if you look at the sales of Call of Duty on the Wii U and you look at the sales of Call of Duty on the Wii, you can obviously see that Activision was much happier with the Wii, because the Call of Duty games I think sold well over 1.5 million, and I think one of them even sold Call of Duty Modern Warfare Reflex Edition. I think that sold over 2 million. So obviously you want to see third-party developers have success on the systems. So we'll see what happens going forward in the future. I just wanted to kind of talk about that interesting dynamic that I saw and just overall just general discussion as far as what Nintendo is doing. And I think that a plan, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And if something is working, continue doing that. And I think that's exactly what Nintendo is doing. Alright guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Check out the links in the description below. We've got Facebook, we've got Twitter. Go ahead and give us a like and a follow on all of our social media. It really helps us spread the content of PlayerEssence across the interwebs, in addition to YouTube. Also make sure you check out our Patreon page, pledge any tier, and be entered in to win some awesome prizes, perks, benefits, and rewards. We've got $10 eShop prize tournaments for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, ARMS, and much more coming in the future, in addition to Discord voice chat for all of our live streams. So support PE Live and PE Arena right here on PlayerEssence. Also make sure you hit that like button if you did like this video. Lets me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future. And subscribe to PlayerEssence for the latest news, reviews, discussions, and more. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you ninja for the next video. Peace.